Welcome to another edition of the Unexpected Podcast. In this episode, hosts Lee and Amy have invited a special guest to join them in a simple conversation about life experiences, the current culture, God, and everything in between. We hope you enjoy our guest as much as we did. This is the Unexpected Podcast. Welcome to another edition of the Unexpected Podcast. We're so glad that you joined us today. I'm Amy, and that's Lee.
How you doing?
And if you guys have been with us before, you know that we're always here, but we have a special guest today that we're very, very excited about, and that is Jenn Bevan. Jenn, thanks for coming and being on the Unexpected Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And I know that Lee's excited, and I am, because Jenn brings to me, she's someone who brings a lot of wisdom, and she has a very exciting life. So I'll just give a little bit of a rundown about you. You serve as a worship pastor and have been on the church staff of your local church, which happens to be our local church, Living Word, for how many years?
I think it's going on 9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and to use this metaphor, Jenn wears a lot of hats. So not only is she a worship pastor, but she also is into fitness and is a fitness instructor.
Yes.
And we'll get into more about that in a minute. And as of late, she and her husband, Bob, are also business owners and business partners. So that's a new adventure as well. And so, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the idea of resilience, but also finding that place of rest in God, just with all the things that all of us have to do. You know, everyone out there probably feels like they have a pretty busy schedule, a hectic life, and I know you do.
Yeah.
But somehow God gives you the grace to manage it all. So I'd like to just start with with each of those areas where you were involved. How did you get started? First of all, how did you get started as a worship pastor? Did you grow up thinking that's what you were going to be doing with your life?
So I wrote down some notes because I'm going to look at them just a little bit. I think, so when I got saved when I was 17. Mm-hmm. And, that first year I grew up in a Methodist church. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of expression, just, stand up to sing the hymn, sit down, and I'll probably use my hands a lot because this is, I am a expressive
yes.
Be expressive.
person.
It's all good.
And so that was one of the things when I got saved that just began to shift. There was just something inside of me that just wanted to express myself. And I mean, I'd never done it before. So, I mean, when it first started, it was just kind of like this, I'm going to raise my hand, and it was like this nervous, kind of thing because I had never done that before. Like I said, the Methodist church is just very, it's just kind of, a little more somber and stuff like that. And so then when we started going to a more non-denominational church, I just felt this expression inside of me. And so that first year, I love the presence of God. I think that was just one of the things, like even going to college, I went to the University of Dayton my first year, and I just wanted to be in his presence. And at that time, I would have my quiet time, but at that time also it was revolved around church. So I would just go to different churches. There was my main one, but then they didn't have a weekday service. So I would go to this place called Solid Rock, and they were known for their expressive worship and stuff like that. And I just went I didn't care if anybody saw me. I didn't care if anybody knew me. I just wanted more of God. And so I would just go. And that just kind of was just that place of hunger. And then as that year went along, realizing my heart for music, I mean, my mom took me to a ton of concerts. Maybe not so, they weren't Christian. They were like Cinderella and Van Halen and Cyndi Lauper. And
that era,
I mean, Kings Island, we grew up 30 minutes from Kings Island. They had a big, concert series there and would have different people there. And I would just go. And so music has always been a part of my life.
Right.
And then singing in high school or different things like that. But then there was this couple that was doing the worship at our church. and they just started to add more people in. And so I just, wanted to be a part.
Right.
And so from there, just kind of different things. Like then next year went to Lee, became a music major, was that for a year. And so just, that's always just been in me. Now, one of the things that I was going to say real fast is like, so I switched majors because I felt like, because, being a woman, I wasn't sure if I would be able to make a living doing that.
Right.
And at that time, that was not very popular for a woman to be doing on her own. So what I felt like the Lord said is that I would marry somebody that would be a worship leader. And at that time, Bob did not play music at all.
Wow.
So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. And, and yet you're the one who's kind of stepped into that role at this point, even though you guys both, I know, play music. Jenn plays guitar and sings. Bob plays guitar and sings.
Right.
And you guys make a great team in that. But isn't that amazing how, God always makes a way. If he put something in your heart, even though it maybe didn't make sense, he was going to work it out.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. A lot of things that have happened in my life have always just been him giving me impressions of things and me just holding it loosely and then allowing him to walk it out.
Yeah.
Like, because I would see or hear things I think that were really ahead of time to really when he wanted to fulfill it. And so like just knowing,
Yeah. And I think that's great wisdom that someone can take away, from what you just said, just the idea that sometimes we have these, they might seem like ideas, they might seem like our imagination or just our own idea. And then if we stop and really listen, we can realize, oh, I think that's the Lord saying that, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if he's saying it, then somehow he'll make a way as we cooperate with what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's, that's good training, for us, is to be able to hear the voice of the Lord in whatever form or fashion that it comes towards us. This ability to be able to decipher, is this me or is this the Lord?
Right.
A lot of times the Lord will speak to you in that still small voice, and then you start walking towards it, and the voice gets louder because it swells inside of your spirit.
Right.
And you start witnessing with that spirit, and then before you know it, this happens that will be the catalyst for this. This will be the catalyst for this, and it'll just grow and swell, and then before you know it, you're where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's I find that now I'm still growing, and I will continue to grow, and I will continue to be an open vessel for that, leading worship and doing different things like that. But so, and one other question is, so you're a fitness trainer. Is there anything you can do?
Are you asking if that can be imparted?
So like lay hands upon me to like lose this little, it's like 20 pounds. I think it's all,
No, come to my class.
Okay.
I'll get it off.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So without killing me.
Well, I kind of like to kill people. No, just kidding. I do like to work people.
Right.
Challenge.
Right. Well, if you're not challenged, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if kind of scared me a little.
Sorry about that.
I love it.
That's my intensity.
I love it.
Well, that brings up a great question. Then, how did you get involved in the fitness world, and how you're teaching classes now?
So I don't remember now how many years it's been, if it's been 9 years or whatever. I started a class called Body Pump. I was just a participant. I've always worked out. I played sports in high school, and so I've always worked out and just loved that aspect, of just keeping my body in shape, staying fit, staying healthy. And so just started taking the class because I was working out alone at that time.
Right.
I'd used to work out with friends, and then now I was alone. And it was just kind of like I was tired of being alone, started this class, and it really just became a community for me.
Right.
And then one of the teachers asked me if I ever wanted to teach, and I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, and this is for me, I guess this is just one of the things, is like, to me, God wastes nothing. Like everything in life, God uses. And that's the thing, even from when I started my love of worship and then became a worship pastor, was, almost 15 to 20 years. And so and in that time I was a stay-at-home mom, and I, just poured into my kids. Right. And we still worship together, but I wasn't the worship pastor at that time. And just being in the house of God, that's the place I feel most at home, I think. But going back to the fitness, the cool thing is that sometimes God knows what's going to get something out of us that maybe wouldn't in a traditional manner.
Right.
And that has totally been the thing for fitness for me, is that when she asked, I was like, no. But then there was this kind of drawing factor of, I've always felt like this coach, like wanting to coach people, wanting to help people and stuff like that. And so when I did it, the cool thing is the training is not Christian at all. I mean, but their training was really about who you are and your why. And that really began to develop in me even deeper, like who, because like I was still finding myself. I mean, to me, life is just a journey of finding yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, because to me, the way God has worked, I mean, even now with the business, I mean, no, I never saw myself there. No.
Right.
That's
it
not.
It was unexpected.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes. Unexpected.
I want to say, I love what you said about God never wastes anything. Yes, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And, I tell people oftentimes that I've realized that every experience I've had I've brought something from that experience to take into the new experiences of life. And that's a great thing.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think about even when I was little, I mean, this is really kind of goofy, but I thought it was pretty interesting. So when I was little, I would love to go into Costco with my family or whatever. And for some reason, I would find the registers, like the play registers, but it was like the real ones. They were like real. And I would do this. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I do finances at the church.
Right.
And now I'm doing money at the business. And what I'm just saying is that's what I'm saying. Even little things, because I used to even play restaurant and love doing this calculator. You know what I'm saying? Like just little things that they're so small and minute. But then I think of my daughter's life. And like when she's an engineer and she loved to build. I mean, from 18 months. I mean, just loved to build.
That is so amazing when you can see those traits that early in life.
And I think that's the thing that I love to do, is just pull out those things in people also, is just being able to see what they're good at and be able to encourage that.
That is fantastic.
Wow.
What a gift.
Yeah. Now you have new opportunity, because now you and your husband, Bob, are business owners. So that's a new opportunity, I'm sure, to pour into other people, to train, to teach, instruct.
Yeah, like I feel like in some ways I'm back into youth ministry again. And I mean, I've always loved youth ministry to begin with, but I mean, I've kind of had this has been an interesting year. Pastor Larry used to talk about Jehovah's sneaky. And I've kind of felt that way with the Lord, because so my husband's always wanted to do some kind of business venture, and we did it when we were first married, and then it never really worked out. And I finally was just like, this is kind of like, because they were mostly MLMs, which you have to then not use people, but you have to get people to
You're recruiting people into doing what you do, kind of.
Right. And here we are, pastors. I mean, so it's just like this. It just didn't feel right. And so he'd come up with ideas and I'd be like, no.
Oh, wow.
And then finally he was like, this one. And I was like, yes. And so I had my picture of what this was going to look like, and it's been a total 180.
Oh, wow.
But that's all right. 'Cause I mean, God is doing something, I think, new. And it's been kind of a picture of the last 2 years anyways, of my hearing God. It's been very different. It's he's been very silent to some degree, and it's been this different way he's speaking to me. So at first I kind of felt a little like, okay, I said yes to this, and now my whole world is kind of turned upside down.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And
So at this moment when you said yes, how quickly?
Actually, it was almost immediate. Like I'm an all or nothing person.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I'm
Same.
like no, no. I mean it's my no. And if I'm yes, then I'm like, then let's go for it. Let's go do it and let's do it big.
Yep.
And not like big like in the sense of extravagant, but you know, like there'd be things he would say, and because sometimes for me there was, I mean, I'm gonna get personal, I guess, and deep for myself, is that there were places of fear and places of where, you know, like it's a hard thing to think I'm going to take out a dollar loan and like, what am I going to do with this? And I don't know, maybe this is too much to say on, you know, podcast.
Well, and you know, but you are taking on a large legitimate business that's already doing so well.
Right. Yeah. And it's doing amazing. But my point was, so you're taking this thing, and so once I say yes, I'm like, all right, let's make this look nice. Right. Let's make this look good. Like the drive-through, I want screens. I don't want these plastic, you know, or different things. And you know, it's so for some reason I'm just like that, just that all or nothing, and just kind of when I'm in, it's kind of like, or when I hear his yes, I guess that's the thing. When I hear his yes, it's just,
it's done.
It's I'm all in.
Settled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that what a lot of people in the Christian world, we have a tendency to, we hear a yes, go do this, but then we are like, okay, we've got to save here, we've got to save here. And I think that some cases are different, and in most cases you got to fill it out. You got to be right about it. You got to be a good steward. You have to do all of that. But when you look chintzy, you get chintzy results.
Right.
When you look professional, you get professional results. It's the law of sowing and reaping that does not have any favorites. Right. It's everybody across the board, believer, non-believer, anybody. There is a spirit and a rule, a law that God set in motion of sowing and reaping. Yeah. If you sow it in and it's everything you got, all your talent, all your ability, then he takes that, and what does he do? He grows it and he moves it bigger. It makes it bigger because you were a good steward over a little, and he made you ruler over much. Yeah. So that, for me, when I hear stories like that, and you say, I want screens. I don't want a piece of plastic sitting up there that people have to squint to look at. Right. That inspires me. It's like, you know what? My thought process is right. This thing of doing everything as unto the Lord is real.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the things I had written down also, was that there was a time, I don't know why God spoke to me this way, but there would be things that I would step out in, and he'd be like, I'm broadening your shoulders. And I think what he was saying is I'm creating your capacity to carry more, because I don't really think that I had a really big vision for myself. It's not that I don't think I had a small one, but I definitely did not always challenge myself. And I think sometimes I did look at myself a little bit like small at times, like, can I really do this? You know, can I really do this? And different things like that. And there'd be times he'd be like, I would step out into something and he'd be like, I'm broadening your shoulders here. And I would be doing it. And there'd be times I'd be crying. There'd be times that it was hard. And that's something I'm even learning now, because a lot of times we shrink back from hard. Yeah. And we think, and maybe I would have thought that when I was younger, is maybe, it's a punishment of God. But now I feel like it's a challenge of God to say, I'm trying to bring out in you what I put in you. Yes. Right. I'm trying to bring out the gold in you. I'm trying to bring out the things that you don't see. I'm trying to bring out the things that mainly you don't see. Right? Yeah. And you don't think you can do, because that was like something with the fitness. I mean, that I did not ever see myself doing that. And now it's something that I so love, because in a sense, like, it's really about pastoring and helping people in even our business. That's what we're still doing. Right. So in everything that we've learned now with pastoring, I'm now using that in the fitness realm. I'm using that in the business realm. Now we're having to find that balance, because you know, to just completely be pastoral puts you in some binds sometimes, like because your heart is being compassionate, you're trying to, help others.
Right.
So we've had to find that line, but it's really been a cool thing.
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I've always been this type of person of help. My empathy level is way down on people, and I've said that before, but I've been working on it. I've been doing a lot better, but having that ability to grasp what's in front of you and taking it to the next level, that has to be something that only God can do through you. Being I'll use that word again, self-defamation person. And some people don't like me to self-defamate myself.
Right?
Very close.
We got to be got to think about those words.
Close.
So close to that one word that you almost block the move of God when you start talking down, because we talked about this before too. Right. The power of life and death are in the tongue.
Right.
So whatever I say about this thing is going to either curse it or bless it. Right. And so when we talk about ourselves, I am a holy nation, a royal priesthood, a blessed man of God, a blessed woman of God. I take what God has said about me more seriously than what I say about myself.
Right.
And we have to be able to differentiate between those people that we are to pastor and those we are to show tough love to also. And either one of them you have to not speak bad to or down to, even though sometimes people can get on your nerves and make you go, why are you even breathing? But that is,
I don't think Jenn says that, but
Jenn never has those issues, and I'm the only person in the whole world that ever feels like that. But then I repent and I'm good. It's like, Lord, please don't let me be a bad person towards this person. I want to lift them up. I don't want to tear them down.
Right.
But Lord, if you see fit to kick them, that's perfectly fine. Is that wrong?
No, I just Bob and I are mush balls, I've realized most of the time. So we've got the other end.
You both have those tender pastoral hearts.
Well, the ones that you don't want, you send them my way and we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Go talk to Lee. He's got some ministering moments for you.
Yeah. And I think that's something the Lord is, like you had said about the self, whatever
defamation.
Yes.
Self-defamation.
Putting down oneself.
And then you talked about the power
of life and death are in the tongue.
But I also think of the Israelites when the spies went in, and it was Joshua and Caleb who saw differently, and because they said something about that the other saw themselves as grasshoppers, small, unable to take the land.
Yes.
And that's something that God is doing in me to challenge me, because I have sometimes had not a small vision. I've always been a visionary, but a small thinking of who I am.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's really about perspective, isn't it? Because, something can look like it's a monumental task, that's ahead. And, and if we see ourselves, like you mentioned, as the Israelites did, as grasshoppers, but if we see ourselves in light of Christ and who he made us. And I love how you pointed out too, just how you've had to step up and realize I can do some difficult things. And I don't know if you've found this, but I have found that when I am challenged, once I get through it, then I feel revitalized.
Oh yeah.
That's where the fulfillment is when you're facing a challenge and you go through it.
Well, and I think also I've written this down as like the character of God is so important, that there's so many things to learn about his nature and who he is. And through each thing, he's taught me different aspects of who he is. And so alongside this place of my growing self
defamation.
Yeah, or
Self growth.
Self growth has been
Yes.
this God growth.
Yeah.
And so what's been cool is then when that happens is then you can pull from your history with him.
Oh, yes.
You can pull from that history and you can be like, okay, you've done this before for me, God, and I'm believing you to do this again. And he's doing a lot of that in even the financial part of it, where sometimes I can get nervous or be like, and he's just like, but remember what I've done for you in the past, and then beginning to see that again and seeing, and there's just things, like I said, I've been hearing him differently, but he's talking. And then it's like he says something, and then Bob like confirms that, like, you know, like the next conversation we have or something. And so that's been really cool. Is it's about learning like the voice of God, and then learning about his nature through all these things that we walk through, because that is what will carry you through the hard times. That's what will carry you through those times where you're questioning God, you're doubting yourself, but to then tap back into, no, this is what you did for me. And you know,
that's so good.
And that, I was reading Genesis today when I went to work, and not while I was driving, but
and not while you were working.
Not while I was working, but before I clocked in this morning, I do a devotional and stuff. But I was listening and reading Genesis, and it was where I believe it was Isaac who was sleeping, and the Lord came to him in a dream. I believe it was Isaac, and it was such an powerful that he thought the Lord was in the room with him. And so he woke up and he took his pillow, which was a rock, a stone, and he set it up as
it might be Jacob.
It might have been. It was
because
Jacob.
The reason is because in Ireland, we just went to Ireland,
Jacob,
and there's
that's
this.
who it was.
I don't know if they called it is it the Blarney
Stone?
Stone?
The Blarney Stone.
That people kiss.
I went down to kiss the Blarney Stone. I faked it, but because there was a ton of people kissing it, and
lip fungus.
So there you go. I think it's Jacob, not because I'm scripturally, but I just did have that experience.
Jacob. You are right. I knew it was Isaac or Jacob, one of those two. But he set it up as a remembrance, as a I want to remember this moment that I met with the Lord. And when we have those remembrance stones or those things that a mile marker for our life, it's to remember what the Lord has done so that when we come up against it again, like you said. And so when you were talking, that came to mind. I was like, man, that's been done since the beginning. And God wants us to make markers in our life to remember what he's done. Because if we forget what he's done, then we're bound to repeat those mistakes again, because that remembering, if you don't learn history, you're bound to repeat it.
Right.
I mean,
and then the other side is like you were saying, then you can also be encouraged. It's such an encouragement to look back and see, you know, we have those markers as well. So many times where we were in a bind and wondered how in the world we're going to get through this situation. And then the Lord just comes through. Well, I tell you, we'll probably be wrapping up here in just a moment. But Jenn, are there like final thoughts of anything that God's teaching you in this season? Anything that you
want to tell our viewers and people? You know,
let me see if there's anything. Well, you said, you did ask this question, but I don't know if it's important. Like, how do you carry it all?
Yes,
absolutely, absolutely.
And this was really key because it didn't necessarily happen to me personally as a Christian, but when I went to Lee, I would hear a lot of stories of PK kids. And so when I went into ministry, one of the things that I wanted to do is I didn't want to sacrifice my children for ministry. And so one of the keys when going into ministry was just that I wanted to protect our family, our connection. And so some of our key words were consistent and intentional. If we can stay consistent and intentional in relationship with one another, and that's what we tried to do throughout the years, and stuff like that, really prioritizing time with family. To me, I put vacations are important just because it's a time to get away and have fun. You're not just in the, grind of life and always doing that. And it doesn't have to be something expensive, but just a time to even go up to the mountains or or get away and do something. And so for me, I guess it was just that thing of I didn't want to lose my family and gain the world.
So good. That's so good.
That is so good.
And you guys like to hike a lot.
We do.
So I've seen all your
waterfalls.
pictures. You guys love waterfalls.
I love waterfalls.
That's
I've been to a ton of them around here.
That is so good. And you're going to have to tell us about some that we haven't yet visited, because you guys will post a picture and I'm like, where's that? I've got to find that place.
They are all over this area. There's so many.
Yeah. That's one of the great things about living in this part of the country in Southeast Tennessee. It is so beautiful. Well, we just appreciate you so much. I think there is some great wisdom that you've imparted with to us today, and it's just encouraging to just see someone like yourself who yields herself to what God has, and it's just very encouraging.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate coming on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, this has been Jenn Bevan, and she's a blessing, and we just thank you all for tuning in, and we just appreciate any of you out there, and we just ask that you would like our videos and subscribe to our channel, because that gives us a little more momentum, and will help others to find us, so that they can hear hopefully a word of encouragement, a word of truth, something that they can take away. And so we just say, bless you, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Don't forget to like this video, and please subscribe to our channel. Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you prefer audio podcasts, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform.